Chin Chin, my friend.
Chin, my friend. Chinzan.
Talking NFL, a lot of things going on around the National Football League. Plenty of things to talk about. We're going to talk about some league issues as well with the great Judy Battista of NFL Network. She's going to join us here in about 10 minutes or so. She's just wrapping up her work on the air. So, Biz, I got a nice recipe for you tonight too. Are you ready for that?
I mean, is that the pictures you sent me earlier?
Yeah.
I mean, that looked delicious, bro. You're going to have to tell me that.
Capellini Rustica. It's easy to make. It's simple ingredients. My good friend Da Benito from Benito's in Union taught me how to make it. I've added my own little twist to it. But, you want to see the finished product?
Oh, baby. Let me tell you something. That looks delicious, brother.
Onion, garlic.
I see you put a load of garlic in it. Can I say something?
Prosciutto.
When my wife loads something up with garlic, I always tell her, slow down a little bit in the garlic, even though that's an Italian thing.
It's not loaded.
No, but you put a garlic in, which is the right way to do it. Don't get me wrong. So, quick story.
I'll save the recipe and the pictures for when Judy comes on. You like my Nikki Cash shirt? Cash only? That's what guys are looking for right now in the NFL, cash.
Yeah. So, I said, my wife goes, well, looks like a lot of garlic in those pictures, Did you say anything to Bob about the garlic? I said, well, it's an Italian way of doing it. You got to have the garlic, I mean,
3 cloves. 3 cloves.
But that's the way. You have to have the garlic, brother, So, what's going on, man? I mean, that meal looked delicious. Did your wife enjoy it? I mean, come on.
We're busy.
Did Max enjoy it?
It's a show prep, bro. What are you drinking? I got the Dow.
All right, so this is what I've been drinking a lot. It's just not an expensive, just a little Bonanza, very popular Cabernet out here. $25 a bottle, but I've been enjoying it. I've been drinking this for the last, let's say, month or so. That's been my go-to for the last Bonanza Cabernet, and I've been enjoying it. So you might want to try it out. Nothing expensive, Pop, but it's nice to have during dinner. That's all I can tell you. And I see Judy Battista is on with us.
We're getting Judy all squared away and get her set.
I am not hearing a word you're saying.
All right, we got to get the audio. Lindsay will take care of that. Make sure we get the audio for the great Judy Battista, who's going to get us squared away here and get this show on the roll. But there's a lot of ground to cover here in the National Football League. So we've got a lot of things to discuss. We're going to get Judy's audio up. This is a grassroots operation. And we'll make sure that we can we'll get Judy's audio.
Get Judy squared away. Yeah. Bob,
listen.
How about the news fresh off the press today? The running back position is back.
I disagree with you.
Oh, come on. James Cook's going to get $17 million now. Barkley has got it. Come on. It's going to be maybe 3 running backs taken in the first round in this draft. The running back position is slowly coming back, my friend.
I think teams are still going to be hesitant to pay him. I think you're going to still see good deals. And unless you're exceptional and have a proven track record of awesome, I still think guys are going to have a hard time finding decent money out there.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick example. James Cook, he's already looking for 15 or so. Do you think he gets what he's looking for as far as 15, 16, 17?
Nope.
Do you think the Bills are going to move on from him when he's a free agent?
We'll see. We'll see what happens when the time comes. They don't have to make that decision right now.
So you're not going anything about as far as running back position is back.
I don't think it's completely back as far as guys getting paid. Now, listen, we're going to discuss this with Judy Battista, but the salary cap keeps going up, and it's going up on average of like 10%, and it continues to go up. So there is going to be more money for everybody across the board because I don't see the cap slowing down anytime in the near future.
No.
So with the revenue streams the way they are, that's kind of all the league stuff. No big surprise that Sam Darnold didn't get tagged. Evidently, Minnesota wants to keep him. Give me a number you think he's going to come in at.
30 to 35.
That's a pretty big range, 30 to 35.
I'm going to look right around there. Look, from what I understand, they were kind of like exploring the tag and trade. And here's the bottom line, Bob. The last 2 games that Sam Darnold played has scared teams around the league. I don't think there's any question about that. Now, J.J. McCarthy seems like something's going on with it. He's not exactly progressing where they want him to be. But there maybe is some concern there, obviously. I think they want to get something done with Donald, 1 or 2 year deal.
There we have her.
It's Judy. I hope Judy, can you hear us?
I got you guys. Hi.
The great Judy Battista from NFL Network has joined us. Judy, first of all, Judy, did you get that quick bottle? Did you get the glass of wine? No?
You know what? I'm still working, so I just have my bottle of water, which is very lame under these circumstances, but it'll have to do. I wish. That's even.
I'm going to teach you how to make a little pot.
That looks great.
A little rustica. A little Capellini Rustica. I'm going to show you. It's really easy. It's super easy. So, Judy, we were talking about Saquon getting paid. Biz was wondering, does this mean the running back market is back? I say no. I say that it's still going to be a slow climb. As the salary cap goes, there's going to be some more money. But I think teams are only going to look to pay the guys who are proven studs. And I think the market will remain relatively depressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a different market for the Saquon Barkleys and Derrick Henrys and Christian McCaffreys of the world, and then basically everybody else. But we're going to see, because now that sort of 20 million per year figure is out there, even if it's, if we're sort of massaging the numbers, but now that number is out there, that the guys this year are going to want that number, are going to push for that number. It's hard for me to imagine anybody getting again to the Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley level, but we'll see. And what I'm really interested to see is if the renaissance this year that we saw with running backs impacts the draft, because there's some good running backs in the draft, and are we going to see any kind of run on them? I mean, I agree. I think generally this is still a position that is not valued the way it once was. But we did see this season the impact that great top-level running backs can have on a franchise. And so I wonder now if there'll be a trickle-down effect this offseason.
Yeah, Judy, what I was talking with Bob about before you jumped in was the running back position maybe isn't as devalued as it has been the last few years. Do you kind of see it maybe starting to come back a little bit, where teams look and say, okay, you know what? Obviously, I'm not putting Saquon. He's a dynamic talent. But as far as guys like James Cook, guys like that are looking to get their money, do you think teams kind of look at it differently now and say, okay, we are going to start paying some running backs now?
I think it depends on how that team uses the running back, right? I mean, if you are a team, again, there's nobody quite like Saquon or Christian McCaffrey, but if you are a team that has one of those and uses them the way they are used, the heavy workload that they have, that's a different formula than, if you use a running back only occasionally and you're still a mostly pass-heavy offense. So do I think this is going to be a widespread, like, all running back contracts are going to explode now? No, but I do think you're going to see, like, what does James Cook want in the market this year? I mean, I would expect that he's going to want a big number, especially, again, now that we've seen that sort of 20 million number float out there. So I still think it will be devalued relative to the other skill positions, but maybe it will rise just because all salaries are rising, because, as you said, the salary cap just keeps going up and up.
And just part two of that, Bob, Judy, how about the draft? How does it affect the draft?
Yeah.
This is a deep running back class coming out. Now, do you see maybe 2 or 3 guys taken in the first round of this draft?
Right. That is what I am most interested in, is if we're going to see that position come back, instead of for all those years where everybody thought, like, well, we'll just get get a running back in the third round and plug them in, and that'll work just fine. And it did work just fine, except that then you see the value of the exceptional running back and what they can do. But again, I think we have to remember those guys that, again, the Saquons, Derrick Henrys, Christian McCaffreys are unique players, and they are in unique situations. They are on very complete teams, right? Teams that are right there. In the case of the Eagles, they are over the top. So, but I mean, those are teams, they are like final pieces of teams that have so much around them. If you are a team that is building or rebuilding, I mean, you're still not building around a running back in the NFL. That's just not what you're going to do. If you have a lot of needs, you are almost certainly not using your first round draft pick on a running back right now.
Judy, growth of the game is something that I wanted to get into because it ties directly into the salary cap here.
Yeah.
The international expansion, the opportunity to continue to touch new places around the world that the league is targeting, not only now, but looking out 3, 4, 5 years from now. It seems to me that teams can kind of attack free agency and take a leap of faith that the revenue stream is not going to be stopping this kind of growth each and every year, at least for the next 4 or 5 years. And most people expect to be fired after 5 years anyway, 3 years from this point. So is that a safe assumption that GMs can make?
Yeah, I think when we always use the expression kicking the can down the road about managing the salary cap, like that's a pretty safe strategy now, because the salary cap, it's not just growing. I mean, it is growing like exponentially. It's making big jumps. And we know that that's only going to continue because they keep cutting up the media contracts, right? Let's play games on Christmas and sell those to Netflix. Okay. And, that brings in another however many millions of dollars. The international games, they just keep adding the international games. The media contracts are going to come up in a few years. They can opt out of them. They're going to opt out of them for sure. They're inevitably going to add an 18th game. So that will be more inventory to sell. So the media contracts are going to keep ballooning, especially as the streamers get even more involved. I'm sure you saw those reports that Netflix sort of dangled the idea that they would like to be involved on Sunday afternoon packages, which has to make the networks very nervous because Netflix just is sitting on a ton of cash. So all of that money is coming into the system. And, whatever the revenue is, it's 22, 23. I can't remember what the figure is now, but it's all shared with the players. And so the salary cap just keeps going up. So it certainly makes it much easier for general managers to manage the cap because the cap just keeps going up so much that you've got more breathing room. Now, of course, at the same time, that also means that contract demands keep going up. But it's certainly, you're not seeing the need to just slash rosters the way you used to at this very time of the year when the cap, when so many teams were tight against the cap. Teams just aren't as tight against the cap right now because the cap jumped even more than they expected it to jump this year.
Right. Judy, just to follow up on that, like my parents are in New Jersey. They're in their 80s. They got their first smart TV. They gave up their cable provider. They have a Roku. And they have streaming all over the place. And they actually sent a text. My mom sent a text to everybody in the family. For the first time in our lives, we don't have a house phone. Only use ourselves. But if your
parents are ahead of me, let me just say that.
Judy, they're ahead of me too.
Yeah, I mean, jeez.
But that's kind of where we are, right? Yeah. I mean,
yes.
People are just adapting. I don't know if it's actually. I don't even think it's. They always say cut the cord. Lower your cable bill. By the time you stream and everything, and then 4 people in your family have Netflix, you're actually paying more. But it doesn't matter because you don't cancel anything.
That's correct. Right. I mean, I have Apple TV just seriously, mostly from Ted Lasso. And also I just keep waiting for the morning show to come back, for example. Like, when is the next season coming? I still have the subscription. I just never cancel anything. It's coming, and you're only going to see more of it, right? I mean, Peacock had a playoff game. Will they put more games on Peacock, for example? Will Apple TV jump in, right? They don't have NFL right now. So are they going to jump in? the streamers are where the money is, and it's where the audience is going, the younger audience. Like every time a game is on one of the streaming services and they release the viewership numbers, they make a point of noting how much younger the viewership is on them, on like the Prime Video games and the Netflix games than they are on the networks. It's where the audience is headed. So that's where the NFL is headed. And for those of us of a certain age, and I put myself in that category, we're going to need all of it, right? You're going to need the networks and you're going to need the streamers to stay on top of all these games.
Judy, let's shift to the combine. Very interesting week. Obviously, the big story beginning of the week was Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Judy, what was your take on Matthew? Did you think he would ever leave the Rams? I mean, I don't think there's any question. I cover the Giants, Judy, and look, Joe Shane took a big swing. He went after it, no question about it. But the Rams and Matthew got it figured out. Did you think he would leave the Rams? How did you? What was the thinking in the beginning of the week with Matthew Stafford, Judy?
Well, I think Matthew Stafford had to see what the market looked like for him, right? And I think that was good for him and for the Rams, that the Rams let him do it and said, like, go see. And then he had to decide, was he really going to uproot his life and his family and leave a team? They wanted him at a certain number, at their number. But was he going to leave a team that is very much on the rise, rising maybe ahead of schedule? And, I think he's got 4 kids. Like, was he going to just move his family again for, what would be the last few years of his career and leave a great environment that he loves? He and Sean McVay have a great relationship. So no, I never thought it would really come to him leaving. I thought that would be a pretty big leap for him. But I don't blame Joe Shane and the other teams that were in there, the Raiders, for sniffing around it, because you have to. I mean, Matthew Stafford is still playing at an extremely high level. And if you are a team that needs an upgrade, a big upgrade at quarterback, which the Giants certainly do, you have to explore everything. Joe Shane told us that at the combine. He's going to turn over every rock. They need to turn over every rock because they have to get better at that position. They've got to get better play. And so they have to look at everything. And he said, like, signing a veteran and also drafting somebody. Maybe they move up in the draft. I mean, everything's on the table for the Giants. So I don't blame them one bit for talking to Matthew Stafford and seeing if anything could pry him loose. But ultimately, I would have been stunned if he had left LA.
Would you be stunned if Aaron Rodgers, who has that house in Montclair, decides to stay in New Jersey?
When this first surfaced, I was like, oh my God, like really? But it does make some sense, right? It makes some sense. Again, he is an upgrade. And for as miserable as last year was at the Jets, the last 2 years were at the Jets, there were moments that convinced you he can still play if everything around him is good. Now, that is can everything around him be good? Can the offensive line protect him? Right? I mean, that is an ongoing problem. He does not move the way he used to. He still has the arm. He will probably have the arm when he's 90 years old. He does not move the way the Aaron Rodgers we remember moved. So that's an issue. Can they protect him? But he would not, if he were going to the Giants or frankly anywhere else he goes now, he's not going, it's not the same mandate as when he went to the Jets, which was, let's go win a Super Bowl. It would be our bridge quarterback. We're going to get a younger quarterback and we need you to be the bridge guy and maybe mentor the young kid, right, and get us to our next phase. And we need to win some games now. That's a much different thing than the Jets needed him for. And you know that Aaron Rodgers, whether it's the Giants or wherever he decides to sign, he does not want things to end the way they ended at the Jets, right? I mean, he wants a much better performance to go out on. And so he would be motivated by that. I am sure there is a chip on his shoulder from that.
Just want to remind our audience, we have teamed up with Believe and the Believe Network. So go to Believe on YouTube and subscribe to the Mangia Cast, as we have all kinds of initiatives and fun things that we're going to do along the way. And Biz, I know you had a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, Judy, look, I think we all know Aaron Rodgers a little bit. I don't think there's any question. He has interest in the Giants, and he wants to stick it to the Jets and be successful, yes, in the stadium of the team that let him go. Judy, I mean, there's a lot of narrative out there about how the Giants have been chasing Rod because Joe's looking at under every rock. Shane, right? Well, guess what? I think you noticed too, Judy. There's interest in Rodgers and the Giants too. It's not just the Giants chasing him. He has interest in the Giants too. And Judy, like you just said, he doesn't want to go out like the way he went out last year. And I think he would like to stick it to the Jets a little bit by having a successful 2025 season in MetLife. How do you feel about that, Judy?
I think he wants to write his own ending. Let's put it that way. And the way
not
it
be
ended
fired by Woody's son.
Exactly. Like right. I don't think the Jets authored that ending, and I think he wants to. And even if it's not riding off into the sunset with another Super Bowl title, he certainly wants to go out on a better note. And I think, again, whether it's with the Giants or some other team, like I think if he can be the guy that wins you a bunch of games, maybe gets you into the playoffs, and then hands the baton to the next guy, that's a much better ending than the ending he had at the Jets, which was obviously bitterly disappointing. So he is, I mean, we have seen this. He's very internally motivated, but he is also very motivated by, he hears everything. He knows everything that is being written and said. He's very conscious of it. He is very conscious of people who doubt him and whatever team he's on. He's very aware of all of it. And so I think there is some external motivation to prove that what we saw in those 2 years at the Jets, especially last year, is just not how Aaron Rodgers should be remembered.
All right, we got Rams #1 fan, discovered the show, so much fun, and happy that Stafford stayed. Judy, I want to ask you this question. Biz and I had a little conversation about the Summer Olympics coming, and
love the Summer Olympics. Love the Olympics.
There's an opportunity here. We're starting to see certain states adopt flag football, especially women's flag football, as a varsity sport. And everywhere around here in Florida, there's kids and there's boys and there's girls and they're playing flag football. Do you think the NFL is going to push to try to get some of their stars to be in the Olympics, kind of like '92, what the NBA did with the Barcelona Olympics, to really spread it globally in a way that even international games can't do?
I don't think the NFL is going to have to push. The players themselves want to play so badly. When they announced that flag football was going to be an international sport, was going to be an Olympic sport, I mean, go back and look at social media. Like the players were like, I want in on this. Like Patrick Mahomes was like ready to do this. And Gronk wanted to play. It's like, Gronk, you're going to be retired for 10 years by the time this happens. Like all of these players want in on it. It would be just in strictly business terms, a tremendous marketing vehicle. Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes as your flag football quarterback? And you're right.
Yeah.
Think of what the dream team in basketball did. The interest level, the elevation of interest in the game globally, and basketball was already a global sport in a way that football just has not quite made that kind of inroads. It would be an enormous opportunity to promote the game of football, to have the top level players. The problem, there's a few problems here. It's in the summer, which is when teams are generally, the Olympics are generally when training camps are going on, because I'm always racing back from training camp to watch the Olympics in whatever hotel room I'm in. So that would have to be worked out. And also, how would that work with their contracts, right? The union would have to be involved. You would have to do some kind of, it's sort of like when they interrupt the season for hockey and the Winter Olympics to let the pro players, how do you, God forbid, what happens if Patrick Mahomes plays flag football in the Olympics and gets hurt? It's so complicated to think about. But I certainly think you're going to see a push for some players to be in there. Not a whole squad. I think it would be a mixture, but certainly some of the players are going to want to play.
Hey, if Jordan can do it, anybody can do it, right?
Yes, right.
If Jordan, Magic,
exactly,
all those guys did it, and it turned out to be a big success. Judy, you're one of the great journalists, having worked for the New York Times, Newsday, Miami Herald. Listen, the industry's just changed, right? It's get things out quickly. you actually do reporting. Where did that passion of football and the reporting aspect come from you?
Well, I was always a news junkie. Like I grew up in a house where we always had like Walter Cronkite on and always had the newspapers. And I grew up so I thought I was going to be a news reporter. But I grew up in South Florida in the Fort Lauderdale area, and football was everything then. It was before there was baseball and basketball and hockey. Even there, it was football. It was Don Shula and Bob Greasy, and then Dan Marino, and then the Miami Hurricanes. So if you were a sports fan, you were interested in like spring training baseball. That's when the Yankees trained in Fort Lauderdale, and football. Those were your sports. So I mean, I watched a lot of football. I loved football. And I watched a lot of baseball too. I also love baseball. And that's sort of how I got into it. But I started as a news reporter and then just sort of slowly made my way into sports. Stayed there.
You know, it's amazing about Marino, since this is the Mangia Cast. When I was doing boxing and traveling all around the United States and even doing golf, I mean, till this day, you could be driving through Oklahoma or Montana or Colorado and pull up to a gas station, and there's some dude probably a size too small stuffed in a Dan Marino jersey. It's unbelievable.
I believe that.
No matter where you go, you see a Dolphins 13. There's always some guy at a gas station filling his car up with gas, and he's got a Marino jersey.
Well, I will tell you this. So again, I grew up in the Fort Lauderdale area, and my parents lived there even after I moved back to New York. They eventually moved back. But one time when they were still down there, it was around Christmas, and I went down there for Christmas, and we went to our favorite Italian restaurant, Runway 84, by the way, in Fort Lauderdale. Great place. And that was also a Marino favorite. And so this is like 2 nights before Christmas. It's very festive. Everybody's having a lot of wine. And we get up to leave, and Dan Marino is at a table, corner table, and he gets up and hugs my father. And I'm like, I turn to my mother and I'm like, we're friends with Dan Marino? What happened? What has happened since I was in New York? How did nobody remember to tell me that now we are friends with Dan Marino, somebody I interview on a regular basis? So that's like my Dan Marino memory. But he and Don Shula are like 2 of the only people I was ever like nervous interviewing, because I was just like, man, I love, these guys are awesome. I love these guys.
Yeah. So Judy, look, when Bob told me you were coming on, and I thought it was great because you're like old school, Judy, where you're analytical. You don't want to fly things out on Twitter to try to be first and all that crap that goes on today, So before I get to the next question, Judy, since you talk about the Italian restaurants, what is your favorite Italian dish?
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It's going to be Capellini Rustica once this night.
That looks pretty good, I got to tell you. I wish I had that right now. I had takeout sushi for dinner tonight, and
I'm going to show you how to make it in like 4 minutes.
My favorite dish is we make lasagna on Christmas, my grandmother's recipe, and like 6 layers, and so that's probably my favorite. But that's quite an undertaking, so I don't do it all that often. Once a year.
Good. Got a favorite spot in the New York metropolitan area?
I figured you were going to ask me this, and I'm struggling with this. I've never been to Rayo's, which I know is like a crime that I've never been there.
Tough to get in there, Judy. Not easy to get in there, Judy.
I was there about a month ago. The scene is unbelievable.
See, I've got to get in. I know I need to get there eventually. So I don't have a favorite place in New York, to be honest, which is sort of sad. I'm Emporio down in the Village. I like Emporio down in the Village. It's one of my daughter's favorites. That's pretty good. But really, my favorite Italian restaurant, like I said, is in Fort Lauderdale. Lots of nostalgia there.
So, Judy, you're dialed in. I got to ask you, at the Combine, what's the feeling with these 2 young quarterbacks, Ward and Sanders? Obviously, Shedeur's a guy's, look, there's a lot of feelings both ways. A lot of people don't like the way he comes across. A lot of people don't like this, that. A lot of people love it. What's the feeling you're getting with these 2 guys, Ward and Sanders?
Well, first of all, I thought Shedeur was totally charming, and and great. So I think a whole lot of how people feel about him is a reflection of how they felt about his dad. If they didn't like Dion, they maybe are pushing that on the son unfairly. In strictly football terms, I did think coming out of the combine, there's more of a separation between Cam and Shedeur than I think we thought there was going in. I think we thought they were sort of neck and neck, and 1 and 2, 2 and 1, and there wasn't much difference. But coming out of there, I think there's a feeling that Cam Ward is ahead of Shedeur, and that he has the higher ceiling. I mean, he's got, first of all, his arm is great. He can make every throw. People really everybody keeps describing him as like an alpha dog, like the kind of guy who walks into the locker room and runs that locker room. And teams are attracted to that, right? That immediate leadership, that just natural leadership ability, which is not to say that Shedeur doesn't have it. I think people really like Shedeur's anticipation. Shedeur is not going to be overwhelmed by anything. He's obviously going to be ready for the NFL. I think whatever you may think of Dion's style as a player, he will have his son ready for the NFL. Will not overwhelm Shedeur Sanders. He knows what he's getting into. But I do think, they seem to like Cam Ward a little bit better now. It feels like he was never out of a game. Like he led some comebacks when he was at Miami. So that was the feeling coming out, that Cam is number one, is of the quarterbacks is number one, and it's a pretty good distance. And I ran into Greg Cosell, who of course has been evaluating these guys for years and years and years. And he said to me, I don't understand why more people are not talking about Cam Ward, because he thinks he's that good. So, so that was my takeaway. And frankly, I was surprised, because I thought that they were neck and neck. And
so Judy, you feel he's separating.
Just to follow up on that, Bill Polian told me last week, he said, watching Cam Ward, he said, reminds him of 1995-96, going to Alcorn State and working out Steve McNair. And he said that there's traits about him from a physical standpoint. Obviously, Bill hasn't talked to Cam Ward on the same level that he spent time with Steve McNair. He said, but from a physical, scouting mind, objective look, I see a lot of Steve McNair in Cam Ward.
Well, you would take that, right? Who
But
wouldn't take that?
But remember, it took Steve McNair several years to develop.
Right.
We've become a microwave NFL now, where it's just throw them in, and by 3 games in, they should be ready to go.
Right, and which is why I think the smart teams have the veteran guy who can be the placeholder for a while, right, and let the rookie get his sea legs under him. But the other thing I think the way college football is now, guys are transferring. It's a different. They're older when they come out. They've experienced more when they come out. So I don't think.
Cash.
And they got cash, right? The dynamic is totally different now. So they are. I think of the days that when they were drafting like 20-year-old. Like, wasn't Sam Darnold 20 when he came into the NFL? Like, just the idea. Like, my daughter is 20. The idea of her being in the NFL is just bananas to me. So they're a little bit older. They're a little bit more mature. They've experienced more. And so I think, again, they won't be as, sort of shell-shocked and wide-eyed about the NFL the way they were just a few years ago.
Judy, what's your feel on Tennessee?
They're doing a good game. They're doing a really good job of throwing people off the scent.
I mean, this is the smoke screen time of year, right, Judy?
I don't know if they know what they're going to do yet, but they are certainly giving off the vibe that they're all over the place. They could be doing anything.
Well, their new GM a couple weeks ago, Judy, when he came out with that generational talent comment,
right?
Everybody jumped on Travis Hunter or
Abdul Carter, right? Then you're looking at them going like, is that what you mean by a generational talent? On the other hand, you really need a quarterback. I think that going back to the quarterbacks, the question is, are these guys that everybody is convinced are the guys, right? And that's compared to previous years, right? Nobody's Joe Burrow, right? Like, there's just not a Joe Burrow. Right. is there a Jaden Daniels? Because don't forget, even last year, there were questions about where Jaden Daniels should go in hindsight, which is just laughable, right?
Unless you ask Charlie Weiss. Charlie Weiss had Jaden Daniels last in October saying he's the best quarterback in the draft.
So, but not everybody did, right? There were some people who weren't sure he was a first rounder. So I think the question is, if you're Tennessee, if you're these top teams, are you sure that, let's say it's Cam Ward, if you think he's the top quarterback, is he the guy? And are you going to use the first overall pick on him? Are you sure it's him? Because otherwise, Abdul Carter is a generational talent. Travis Hunter is a generational talent. Do you take Abdul Carter, maybe get a quarterback later in the draft, or maybe just roll with Will Levis again, or whoever else, maybe Mason Rudolph, whatever, and get a quarterback at a later date with Abdul Carter? Do you trade out? Do you let somebody else come up and then get a lot of draft picks because they need that, right? That is a rebuilding team. Do they do that? They could go a number of different directions. They are doing a very good job of throwing everybody off the scent if they even know right now what they're going to do.
Judy, just a follow-up, Pop. Judy, do you sense there's 3-4 teams kind of reaching out to them, exploring what they want to do with that number one pick?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more than that. I mean, look at how many teams need quarterbacks, and they're at the top of the draft, right? I mean, the Patriots don't, but otherwise, right? Like each of the top 3 teams need quarterbacks.
Raiders need one.
The Raiders need a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. Like there's lots of teams.
Pittsburgh needs a quarterback.
Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. So although they say they're going to sign one of their 2 guys, but like there's a ton of teams that are there. I'm sure they're going to get a lot of phone calls. And then it's just a question of, did they think are they convinced about any of these quarterbacks?
Judy, you want to know how to make you want to know how to make this?
I do. Yes.
It's really simple. I'm going to take
better. I would just rather you make it for me, frankly.
Next time. All right. I'm going to take you on a little slideshow. Okay. So, again, this is a very rudimentary podcast. So here's what you need, Judy. Step aside.
This is awesome.
You need thin spaghetti, not capellini, not regular thin. 1 big Vidalia onion. And then get prosciutto. Now, if you get it from your deli counter, tell them to slice it a little on the thick side, not super thin like you would eat it. You need 2 cans of Cento San Marzano.
That's all we use.
Tomato paste and 1 can of Cento 28-ounce crushed tomato. You're going to just make a simple neutral sauce that you can then put in the fridge or the freezer and use for any other dish. So now you slice your onions nice and thin. You saute them, olive oil, garlic, 3 cloves of garlic pressed in, and then you throw that prosciutto in. And now you make this beautiful flavor. Meanwhile, you got the sauce going. Again, all I use is salt and pepper, crushed tomato, the 2 cans of whole tomato, a little tomato paste, and then I finish it off at the end after 45 minutes with about 8 or 9 nice leaves of the basil, and just let it sit there for an hour. Okay. Once the pasta is done, nice and al dente, you drain it, and then you dump it into that onion, garlic, prosciutto mix, and you almost stir fry the pasta. You want it completely coated, a little extra virgin olive oil. Then what you do is you take the sauce that you've made. Now you dump it on top of it once you've coated all the pasta with the olive oil and everything else.
Looks fantastic.
You incorporate that together. And then at the end of the day, this is what you got. Capellini Rustica.
Amazing. I wish it were not like whatever time it is, 8:40, or I'd start making. I'd remake dinner.
Very simple ingredients. Very easy to do. And again, you're going to make more sauce than you need, right? But you could put that in a Tupperware or a bag, put it in the freezer, and it's neutral because there's no meat in it. There's no fish in it. It's just tomato, salt, pepper. I put a little pinch of baking powder in right near the end just to lift some of the acid out of the tomatoes if you want it a little softer instead of sugar. And then you just stir that up and you let it sit, and boom, you got Capellini Rustica, courtesy of Benito's in Union. If you ever get a chance, go to Da Benito's.
Judy, you thought we were just going to talk football tonight, didn't you?
Thank goodness we're not just talking football. We can do that anytime. This is much better.
This is much better and makes you hungry by the time you leave this podcast, right, Judy?
Exactly.
Judy, I want to ask you something too about because you're one of the more decorated, again, journalists that cover this sport, and we're seeing more and more women coaches on staffs, women involved in scouting. The league has made a lot of progress in that direction, and a lot of qualified women are now getting an opportunity, which I think kind of ties into where flag football, like I watched a 7th, 8th grade girls flag football team practicing alongside my son's team the other night. And you watch this and coaches are yelling out zone coverages and they're on top of it, which just, hey, they may not play in the NFL, but if this continues to grow on a high school level, and I think eventually collegiately, you're going to see schools make it a varsity sport. The opportunities can be endless for women within the NFL outside of what have been traditional roles over the years.
Yeah, I mean, think of the some of the top women in the sport. I mean, coaching is obviously the newest frontier, but like there's no reason why women can't be scouts and general managers. And
Absolutely.
I mean, they're already salary cap experts. They're already doing that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But I mean,
where did Howie Roseman play his college?
well,
football?
Howie is the first to tell you, like, he never played football, right? Like
Correct.
he's just like really loved the game and really knew it and studied it. And obviously he's a lawyer and he came up on the salary cap through that side of it. But
Which is also just, and then I'll let you finish your point, which is also why the NFL was so smart in the early 2000s of embracing fantasy football.
Yes.
Because fantasy football is an understanding of probabilities and numbers. And you don't have to be a meathead who was a star in high school with a woman in the office that's kicking your ass in fantasy football. Oh, you never played the game. That's not what it's about. And
No.
Scouting is not about that either.
Right. Well, fantasy football has been like the greatest boon to think of all the casual fans who pay attention to the games because of their fantasy teams, right? Like even if they're not a Giants fan or a Dolphins fan or a Jaguars fan, right? They're watching football because they've got this fantasy team. They're in their family's fantasy league and they got to win. There's no reason. I mean, other than playing in the NFL, right? There's almost no job that should be off limits to women in the NFL. Certainly, I mean, look at Dawn Aponte, who is now, a top football operations executive in the league office. But I mean, she basically started, in the accounting department of the New York Jets, right? She was on the salary cap side doing that kind of thing. When I was the Jets beat reporter. And then she worked her way up and is now, again, like one of the top football ops people in the league office. You see her on the sidelines all the time. So none of those jobs should be off limits to women. And I do think that as you see, girls playing flag football and they'll progress, that then you will see more women going into scouting and coaching because they will love the game and they will understand the game and they'll understand what it takes, what the best players need to play the game, which is that's what you need to be a scout, right? To analyze players.
Absolutely,
I mean, you don't have to have played it. You just need to be able to see, what traits you need to see in players.
Judy, I think we're going to see a female GM. It's just a matter of time.
Well, Dawn Aponte should be a GM already. Should have been a GM.
That's what
already.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Judy. It's just a matter of time. Right?
Yes, I agree.
It's going to happen soon.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of scouts in this league, Judy. Men scouts. They don't know what the hell they're looking at. What do you mean, Chris? Well, take a look at their drafts. There's a lot of teams, Judy, given how draft after draft.
Yeah, given how quickly we see teams cycle through general managers, like there is no reason why why a woman should not get a shot at the job at some point.
Judy, it's a production business. So
Right.
if a woman knows how to identify talent, I don't give a shit What? It's a male or a female. Get me football players. And unfortunately, Judy, there's a lot of teams in this league that cannot identify talent.
That's
know
true.
that, Judy. Their
That is true.
drafts are bad.
Yes,
Right?
that is true.
So, Judy,
Yes.
I could tell you this because I was a season ago with the Giants in the 7. I've been a fan my whole life. I don't give a shit what you look like. Just identify talent and get them in the building. Just a matter of time, Judy, before you know that, before it is a woman GM.
I hope so. I hope so. We'll
I mean,
see.
we got to pay homage to Amy Trask, who was
Amy Trask
as well. I mean,
Right.
She had to deal with Al Davis. I mean, that should qualify you.
She's got great Al Davis stories. She's got amazing Al Davis stories, as you can imagine.
Judy, I know that you're still at work, which is why you don't have your vino.
I know.
Next time, Judy.
Next time.
You better have it.
Are you red or white?
I'm mostly red, although I do
Judy's
like
red.
I like bubbly too. So that obviously I'll have sparkling white.
Oh, you know what? I have one more question for you. I asked you to be part of the blue ribbon panel.
Yes.
To select the top 100 players in the history of the Giants. Now, I know there's a lot of fans watching that are not Giants fans. Please go to our Believe channel and subscribe to the Mangia Cast because we have Ram fans weighing in and everything else. But can you talk about what that was like trying to decipher the top 100 players in the history?
So hard. It was so hard. Because when you first called me, you said we're going to do the 100 best, and I remember saying to you, Lawrence Taylor. Yes, great. That was number one, and then it was so hard to put in order, like put the other 99 in order. It was just so hard. But it was great because I mean, God knows how many hours I spent, and I deployed my husband and daughter who are Giants fans, and like we would go down the rabbit hole watching, looking up stats, and like my daughter got really into looking up stats and watching tape and like going back and reading the history. So it was awesome. But man, it was hard. I mean, there's a lot of really good players, and ranking them, it's just impossible. Yeah, just impossible.
Judy's your husband a New York guy?
He is.
Okay.
He is he's a Giants fan, and so our daughter is now a Giants fan as well, fighting the good fight at Fordham University.
Okay.
Yeah.
My alma mater.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, how about De Niro in that new series on Netflix? He's got the Fordham shirts on.
Does he?
Zero
I haven't
Day.
watched it. Really?
Zero Day, yeah. As the former president.
I gotta look.
It's a short series.
Awesome.
You should watch what's on Netflix because
I know.
they're going to be a partner.
Yes.
But yeah, he's got a Fordham shirt on. Oh, you know what? I just thought of one more thing. The quarterback. I want to give NFL Network, your employer, some credit here because I saw something that was very interesting. Just circling back to Cam Ward, last kind of conversation about this because I know you do have to get back to work, but. Sean Payton was interviewed and he was asked about Bo Nix. And he said, I can honestly say a year ago at this point in time, we did not have Bo Nix in the place that we had Bo Nix when it came time to make our draft pick. So for all the people that are out there speculating, Tennessee's going to trade, the Giants want to move up, this, that, and the other thing, here's where the quarterbacks are.
It's a lot of time.
We're just leading off first base right now.
Right.
And I thought what Sean Payton said was really interesting because it goes to show you how things change here over the next 2 months.
We haven't even had pro days yet, and we haven't had the visits yet. I mean, the visits are starting, but don't forget when they go to the combine, what you always hear the teams say is what's important at the combine, the medical checks, obviously, and the interviews, because that's all, they just want to sit face to face with a kid for 15 minutes. So that's really their first direct exposure, even if they've gone to campus and watched the practices and everything. Just sitting with the kid one-on-one and talking to him, that's the first time they've been able to do that, where they can really concentrate on it. So we got a lot of time ahead of us for stuff to change.
I found it amazing too, Bob, when Sean said that it was a day after the pro day when they met with Bo Nix that they decided, okay, this is our guy. So, look, I've been saying this for like a week now, Judy, and it's so annoying this time of year as far as people thinking they know what teams are going to do and who they're going to draft.
No, I think
it's a month and a half away.
Yeah,
the draft.
right. At
Nobody knows
most,
what the hell Tennessee's doing.
We know what teams need. I think we know that, but we have no idea what they're thinking, and we honestly don't know much about their evaluations of the players, because if they're smart, they're not really telling anybody what their evaluations are.
Judy, just one follow-up, Bob. Just one last question for Judy. Jaxson Dart, Judy. What are you hearing about him? Is he climbing? Is his stock going up? Is he closing the gap on Sanders? What are you hearing about him?
I don't know about that. I think his stock went up at the draft. People liked him. I don't know. I wouldn't say he's closing the gap with Shedeur. I think Shedeur is clearly, if he's not going to be the number 1 quarterback off the board, he's going to be the number 2 quarterback off the board. I don't know if Jaxson Dart gets into the first round, though. I think, again, there's a lot of time left, and we tend to see in the last few weeks, right, everybody gets pushed up in the draft. I think at this time last year, as Sean Payton said, like, nobody thought Bo Nix was going in the first round, right? Like, guys tend to get pushed up as we get closer and closer.
Oh, boy, Charlie Weiss is going to be texting Judy tonight, Pop.
Oh
we'll know. We'll know so much more, I think, after free agency, right? When we see, like, if Sam Darnold goes somewhere else, like, when the musical chairs start to move, then you'll know a little bit more.
Right. We didn't even talk about where Russell Wilson could wind up and what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins, because he's the cheapest option out there.
Right.
But Judy, we appreciate you taking a couple minutes as we get this thing off.
You.
And as I like to say,
awesome.
Mangia.
Yum.
Mangia. Welcome.
Judy's going to be hitting the nearest restaurant, right?
Exactly. Man, I wish I had that takeout sushi for dinner tonight.
Thank
you, guys.
I'll DoorDash it up to you.
That'd be awesome.
Folks,
Judy,
the great Judy Battista. Thank you, Judy, for
Thanks,
your time.
Guys. Great to talk. Take care.
Judy Battista, having a little fun with us here on a Tuesday night. We're live again. I encourage all of you, go to Believe, go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, like the Mangia Cast, tell your friends. We're not done, by the way, for those of you out there that have questions. Can I show the dish again? Christine, I will show the dish again, but I have a message for you. Did you know BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number 1 source for online betting? Whether you're a seasoned fan or seasoned like this pasta dish was, maybe you're a first-time bettor, BetOnline, your ultimate game day companion, largest selection of odds on everything, NBA, college sports, NHL. Rangers have won 2 in a row. Let's keep it moving in the right direction. BetOnline continues to be your number 1 betting source. From every stat, three-pointer, hat trick, BetOnline has you covered. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, at the end of the show, yes, I will go through the recipe one more time. I'm going to take a little bite. Judy was awesome, right?
Look, Judy's old school, Pop. Analytical. Thinks, just doesn't fly off the handle, putting stuff. She sits there, old school journalist. That's why, that's what I always liked about Judy, so. Great guest. Glad she enjoys. Look like she enjoyed herself. She definitely enjoyed your dish that you're stuffing your face with at this moment.
Well, you got to use the garlic press. You put the garlic press so it emulsifies the garlic, so you're not eating chunks of garlic. That's
you don't want to eat chunks of garlic. No, if you could avoid that, yes. Is it
enjoyable?
Are you enjoying it? I mean, you stuff in your face. Is it phenomenal or not?
It's a little cold right now, but
so what? You guys still take, is it still? Was it good? Are you happy with your finished product?
Exactly. And you know what? You put it in the fridge, leftovers in a non-stick pan the next day.
Did your son like it?
He loves it. Everybody loves it. My grown kids, they're pissed.
Who's pissed?
My grown kids, because they make it themselves, but they don't make it as good as I do.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to text your son Will about that. I'm gonna have to find out about that. If that's true or not.
Don't use too many onions. Paulie and Goodfellas. You like to slice the garlic thin.
You're right, Jerry.
Hey,
Great
Jerry,
line.
I love Jerry. Adam exploits. I watched Believe in Eagles. You came up in my YouTube feed. Follow the Howie Roseman playbook. Well, that's true. I mean, look at this. Slay, Bradbury today. They signed Bryce Huff. They got nothing out of him. But when you draft the way they draft, and when you make trades like they did with A.J. Brown, and you bring in those kind of players, they identified Mekhi Becton. He was such a nice fit for them. It all goes back to the draft as far as I'm concerned, Biz.
How about the Zach Bonds and
Zach Bonds?
The Kobe Dean draft pick. Nolan Smith draft pick.
Jalix Hunt. I mean,
a lot of
on and on. And Gainwell is such a nice secondary back.
Yeah.
You know, they just
pop. Even Jalen Carter. Look, a lot of people they were afraid of Jalen Carter because of what happened.
Most people had Nolan Smith as a top 5 pick.
You know, so this is why the Eagles, do what they do. They identify talent, free agency and the draft. The most important draft. So hey, look, you see what they're doing now, right? Like you just said, they're releasing some guys. It looks like they're going to rework Lane Johnson's contract. They signed Barkley to an extension. I mean, like Judy had a great point. You don't have to be a football player to identify talent. You're a student of the game. That's what Howie Roseman, a Brooklyn guy, man. I'm just a student of the game. And he's one of the best in the business.
He's good at what he does, and he's got a good team around him. Just think about the slippery slope that Jeffrey Lurie was on when Andy Reid left, and they were trying to push Howie Roseman aside for Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly doing his thing.
Yep.
And to Mr. Lurie's credit, he grabbed the reins. He got it straightened out. Howie moved back in because Chip Kelly was trying to move his ass on out and saved the franchise, really, when you think about it.
Absolutely.
And I think Chip will be good with the Raiders. It's interesting. Do you think there's a chance? I mean, there's always a chance. Russell Wilson winds up with the Raiders?
I think so. I know it didn't end great with Pete and him, but I think there's a chance. No question about it. You? I think there is.
I think there's always a chance, right? I mean, he's going to be looking for a gig. I think there's, the cold reality of Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, if he gets let go by Atlanta. It's like your days of being viewed as the savior are kind of gone. Have they wrapped their brain around, like what Judy said earlier, you're going to go in there, you're going to be a placeholder. And if you win, great. And let's go have some success. But you're not part of our future.
No. What do you think about Kirk Cousins, Bob?
I have said this on my Sirius show. I said this on Believe in Giants. I watched Kirk. I stood on the sideline of the Giants-Falcons game as Penix was making his first start. When the players are out there early, and I'm watching Kirk Cousins throw. And I've watched Kirk Cousins throw a lot over the years with the Giants playing the Vikings in the playoffs and the Christmas Eve game of 22, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like a different person. The ball came out of his hand. Everything looked different.
In a negative way. In a negative way, yeah.
He was throwing Pop-Tarts.
Mm.
But I am of the belief, and I've run this by a few people that played the position in the NFL, and I kind of got there. I asked for their opinion on it. And it's when you spend the amount of time that Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, but remember, Kirk Cousins ruptured his Achilles 2 months after Aaron Rodgers in the Week 8 game.
Yeah.
When you spend that much time just rehabbing your Achilles to be able to make it to training camp, I think you run into a situation where give him another year to rework his body and have an off season to get his body ready to play football. And then tell me Kirk Cousins is done, because I don't think he's done. I don't think he's done. I think he's got game left. He's a great teammate. He's got a great persona amongst his teammates. And I think Kirk Cousins could go somewhere really cheap and make somebody really happy.
I agree. By the way,
my man Carl Capola just texted me. Carl, if you're watching, I'm drinking Dow right now. That's the vino of the night, little Dow.
Little Dow. We got a question here from Keith S. Bob.
Keith S.
A little Giants question. We could sprinkle in a little Giants here and there.
Yeah, why not? Did you bring that in? Go ahead, read the question. You brought it in.
Is it me, or have the Giants lost their identity of playing power football? I just feel like this team's trenches aren't properly addressed with this regime. What are your thoughts? Well, Keith, they haven't been properly addressed way before this regime took over. Yeah, bottom line, they haven't drafted well. They haven't built an offensive line since since a long time. So they're going to have to get – you want to play power football, Keith, you got to get guys up front. And the Giants haven't done that.
No, they've gotten away from the power game.
Gotten away from it. No question about it. So they got to draft well. Got to get some guys up front, moving guys off the ball. Then you could get that power going, but they just haven't had it up front.
You know, the crazy thing about it, too, with Giant fans is, they can't, the offensive line, it's been horrible for the better part of 12 years. The biggest concern, I think, if your ownership, which is, I think, probably why they brought Chris Snee in, is it's not like they've neglected the offensive line in the draft. When you think about the amount of draft picks that they've used on offensive line, from Flowers to Pugh to
Richburg
to and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
I mean, John Michael Schmidt's second round pick. Will Hernandez was supposed to be the next Reese Snee. The alarming part is that they've missed on the guys that they've identified as high picks as often. Josh Azuda was a third round pick.
How did that work out?
So in order to play power football, you got to have an offensive line.
Yeah. Hey, I found it interesting, Bob, that Judy said that it seems that Cam Ward has kind of separated himself.
Been reading that a lot.
From Shedeur Sanders. Yeah.
I follow Greg Cosell, before Greg Cosell became a star, I knew Greg when he was a behind-the-scenes guy, breaking down film. I trust what he says when he studies film. And he also dispelled the myth that if you took last year's quarterback class and you put Ward and Shedeur Sanders and Jaxson Dart in last year's class, they'd be at the back of the bus. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think so with Cam Ward. He thinks that Cam Ward would have been not the top three, but would have been in a debate as far as Penix, Nix, and J.J. McCarthy. Would have been part of a conversation.
Well, that was something I addressed last night on the Giant Insider podcast. It's absolutely ridiculous what people are out there saying about how Ward, Sanders would be in the back of the line in this year and all that stuff. You don't know how these kids are going to play. You don't know. To say about how Ward wouldn't even be in the top 5 if he was in this year's class is ridiculous. And that is a prime example of Greg Cosell saying, stop saying that with this kid Ward. It's not true. So if you're a Giants fan, and if they get Cam Ward or they move up to get Cam Ward or the way the draft plays out, we don't know how this draft's going to play out, no matter how many people think they do. And you lined up with Cam Ward, if you're a Giants fan, I think you should feel pretty good because a lot of people are speaking very well of him. And like you said, Bob, you've been reading, Judy just came out. That's the feeling at the combine. And he's kind of like separating himself from Shedeur Sanders right now.
It's going to be a busy week in the National Football League, and it's going to be busy this week because you saw like Seattle part ways with 4 guys, including my guy Rayshawn Jenkins, the safety, only 1 year in Seattle, former Charger, former Jacksonville Jaguar. He and my son were teammates on their 7-on-7 team. Great guy. In fact, the highlight of his time in Seattle was the 102-yard fumble return for a touchdown. We got Anthony wants to know. Vincenzo's. The name of the restaurant, Anthony, is Vincenzo's. It's on your way from Ponte Vedra. If you're heading toward Nocatee, in that little shopping area where the Publix is at the Circle, Vincenzo's. In fact, how about this one, Biz?
Yeah.
Vincenzo, who has a lot of athletes, and maybe Campanelli, now that he's down here in Jacksonville area, eat at his joint.
Okay.
He wants you to fly down.
He wants me to fly down?
Wants you to fly down. He wants us to do a show live from
Oh,
Vincenzo's.
baby. Where is he, in Jacksonville, you said, Bob? Where was he exactly?
Ponte Vedra here.
Oh, he's in Ponte Vedra. I wasn't sure if it was Jack. I saw somebody put the Jacksonville in. Okay.
Anthony, I will be at the Players at some point.
So he wants me to fly down and do a nice podcast from his restaurant. How great would that be?
We'll do it from the back part of the restaurant, maybe like on a Tuesday night. We'll pick up the laptop. We'll go into the kitchen. He'll show us how he makes a couple things.
Oh, that would be great.
It'll
Can
be
I
a lot of
smoke a
fun.
cigar in his restaurant?
Gotta go outside.
I know.
Gotta go outside. Anthony's parents live in Nocatee.
What's his name, Bob? What's your guy's name? The owner of the restaurant?
Vincenzo.
Vinny Vincenzo. Okay. Vincenzo, thank you for the invite, my man.
And his son has been amazing. His son had leukemia at a young age. The V Foundation. You've seen him on TV before. He works in the back with the dad. But there's amazing family, and we'll do a show at Vincenzo's somewhere down the road here.
Wow. Thank you.
I asked, is the Wi-Fi good? Because of course it's good. It's the fastest. How you doing?
All right. Hey.
Anything else you want to get off your chest here? I said on my Sirius show today, I think Darius Slayton is a perfect fit for Kansas City.
For Kansas City.
They need another wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once the wide receiver is healthy, he's probably going to get suspended. Slayton is good at playing that other role. You got the speedster, and I think Darius Slayton would be a cost-effective addition for the Kansas City Chiefs, who are looking to upgrade the receiver position. And he's a great teammate. He's a great person.
Absolutely.
I think he'd be a perfect fit in Kansas, because obviously the Giants didn't tag him today.
Oh, there was no way that was happening. Yeah. So, hey, Bob, we kind of predicted a couple of weeks ago it was going to be a very quiet franchise tag year, and it was. Only 2 guys got tagged. Look, I got to be honest with you, Bob. I agree with you. He would be an excellent fit with Andy over there and Mahomes. And I kind of hope it does happen for him, Bob, because obviously, being in a locker room, getting to know Darius over the years, I would love to see that happen, because he's just a great human being, bud. As you know, he's a great human being.
Think there's any shot he'd come back on some kind of deal?
I think the Giants want to move on. I think he wants. I think he needs a change of scenery, Bob. I think he needs a change of scenery. Now, will I, count out the Giants maybe coming back in the mix here? No. But I think Darius wants a change of scenery. That's my opinion. I know he likes it here. I'm not saying he has a problem with anybody. He doesn't have a problem with Dave's. Doesn't have a problem with Joe and nothing like that. But I just feel he wants a change of scenery. I don't think he'll be back here. You?
Do you? Nah, I kind of get a sense that no. But you never know.
You never know.
Finally,
before, how do you feel about the possibility of Aaron Rodgers over here in Giants land?
It's a really loaded question. See, I got to know Aaron Rodgers way back when in Lake Tahoe. because for years I did the American Century Championship, the celebrity event in Tahoe. And Aaron played in every year, got to know him. In fact, when Max was a baby, he was only 8 months old. We took him out there with all the kids. Aaron Rodgers couldn't have been nicer. Taking pictures with the kids, taking picture with Max, couldn't have been nicer. And we've always maintained, like a friendship through that. I got his number. I've texted with him before. We tried to get him on
the Mangia Cast.
No, if he becomes a Giant, he's coming on.
Who? What?
I said if it becomes a Giant, we're getting his
yeah, right.
Plus, we got to get DeVito on.
Got to get the Paisan on.
But the funny thing about it is like last year when Bernhard Langer was coming back from his Achilles quickly, Aaron agreed to come on live with us on Golf Channel to talk about Langer, because I guess he and Bernhard had communicated about what it took to recover from the Achilles. And then the Friday got washed out. Aaron was at the Kentucky Derby, couldn't come on. So however it worked out. But listen, I like him personally. I've always gotten along with him. Mm-hmm. And I know there's just like Belichick. I've known Bill Belichick since he was the defensive coordinator of the Giants. In the old Giant Stadium where there was no cafeteria, there was nothing. And Bill Belichick at lunchtime would wheel his stationary bike through the locker room with a sandwich, and the media would stop and ask to talk to him, because that's before Parcells put the clamp down on coaches talking. We used to have unlimited access to the assistant coaches. And there's two sides to Belichick. When I did Thursday Night Football for NFL Network, if I had a Patriots, Belichick couldn't be better. In 2011, during the lockout, when the Giants had their charity golf outing and none of the current active players could come because they were locked out, the Giants invited, it was the 25th year of the 86 team, mm-hmm. and they invited them all back. We said to Belichick, Don Sperling with Giants TV Productions, like, we got to sit with Belichick. Belichick said, all right, I'll sit with you guys for like 45 minutes. 2 hours later, we had to tell him it was 2 hours. He could have talked all day. So like Bill Belichick, there's a whole other side to Aaron Rodgers, right? So I think it would be kind of cool, quite honestly. I think it would be kind of cool. Let me ask you, do you think if it happens here within the next 5 to 7 days?
I would think. Yeah. Well, what do we got? Monday kicks off? Yeah. What's today? Tuesday? Well, yeah, 5 to 7 days. Yep.
Monday is the legal tampering period, but as we all know,
the Jets haven't officially released him yet either, right?
Correct.
So the Jets haven't officially released him yet. But look, it's it'll be interesting. And the bottom line is he's the best free agent quarterback out there. So we'll see what happens with him. We'll see what happens. He's the best free agent quarterback on the market, and it's not even close. Now that Stafford re-signed with the Rams, Rodgers is the best free agent out there.
And he showed more than Cousins off the Achilles.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this. So I got the pasta right here.
Yeah. By the way, are you a chicken Milanese guy?
I made chicken Milanese.
Now, what do you put on top?
I rather make a veal Milanese.
Okay, but I asked you about
chicken marsala. Yeah, I'd make a chicken marsala, chicken piccata.
I asked you about chicken Milanese. What do you put on top?
I don't make chicken Milanese.
You just said you make it.
No, I don't. I meant veal. I don't make it. I don't eat.
What do you put on the veal then? Milanese.
You put a little arugula. You put a little. You
chopped tomatoes.
You dress it very lightly. Very lightly. Very lightly. Then it'll overpower everything. In fact, a hair of olive oil, squeeze a lemon, and then maybe a little balsamic glaze, and then the finely chopped tomatoes. By the way, if you're heating this up, if you're ever heating a pasta up, please tell me you don't put it in the microwave.
Microwave? No.
Always a non-stick pan.
No. Yeah. No. It would have to be like on the fly out of the house to put something in the microwave. Like, I got to get out of here in 3 minutes, so let me waft something down quick to put it in the microwave. Other than that, no.
Hey, how about tonight? We went over 1,000 viewers.
Oh, we're going to be rolling, Pop. We're going to be rolling. Everybody's going to be enjoying your meals, enjoying the guests.
Well, the next time we do a show, I think I'm going to go away from the pasta.
What are you doing? Little chicken?
I make a nice chicken cutlet.
Now,
maybe a veal Milanese.
Do you like it really thin, the chicken cutlets? Do you flatten it or you butcher flatten it?
There's no such thing as thick chicken cutlets.
Oh, excuse me.
You take
you flatten it? Do you like it thin or thicker? I like it thin.
There's no such. That's a chicken breast. A chicken cutlet is thin, and don't buy.
I know, but if you go to certain places, your chicken cutlets could be a little thicker. You have to flatten them out. Are you the type of guy that gets it and go, okay, I'm just going to make it the way it comes, or do you have to flatten it out?
No, you have to. It's got to be a certain thickness. You
thin.
Do not.
Right.
Yeah, you do not. Even the one never buy the pre-sliced chicken cutlets because they slice them too thin. Yeah. You take your chicken breast. I'll buy a fresh chicken breast. You slice it in half. Then you get your wax paper.
Whack it down, baby.
You get it down. Maybe I'll make a veal Milanese. Maybe I'll make a shrimp dish the next time.
Oh, one of my favorites.
A nice shrimp. Oh, you would love this dish I make.
Favorites.
Oh, like asparagus.
So, look, this is what we're gonna do. When I fly down here, we're gonna do a show from your restaurant,
Vincenzo's.
Right. Then we're going back to the Papa House, and you got to make one of those. Oh, by the way, do you have a little pizza oven at home?
No.
So how do you make your homemade pizzas?
Pizza stones.
Just a pizza stone, put it in. Okay. My wife swore to you. She goes, guaranteed he has one of those pizza ovens in the back.
No, but I got
a lot of Italian Paisan friends up here in Staten Island that have those pizza ovens, and it's insane. It's insane. You know, those brick ovens in the backyard, they put it in there like you're in the freaking.
Those are great.
Oh, they're great, Bob. Great.
But I got the pizza stones. If you know how to work the stone.
Yeah, we have one too.
It's not easy to get the dough. Sometimes I have it shipped down from Brooklyn.
You were telling me, yeah.
It's $10 a pound, but it tastes like home. But we'll cook in Vincenzo's when you come down.
Okay.
We'll cook in his restaurant. All right. I think we've exhausted all possibilities. Again, I asked all of you, for all of you that are watching on X tonight, please go to Believe on YouTube, the Believe channel. Subscribe to the Mangia Cast. You get all the look. We had a Believe in Eagles fan join us tonight because of the power of Believe and Bet Online. So just go to YouTube, go to the Believe channel, Mangia Cast, like it, subscribe. It costs you nothing. Doesn't cost you any cash whatsoever. How you doing? Nikki Cass. It is so funny. But make sure you do it. Chin chin, my friend.
Chin chin, and Pop, just one last thing. Judy just tweeted at me. She absolutely loved being on. Thanks for having her on. It was a blast to have Judy on. We'll have her on again down the road.
Yeah, and we taught her how to make a meal.
And she's very happy. You could tell she was happy about that, man. She can't wait.
How about her and Marino?
Yeah, how about that Marino? How about the fall? Oh, yeah, like knowing Marino, she not even knowing it.
You know what we're going to do? Here's what we're going to do. When we get to whatever Lindsay at Believe tells us is like the right threshold of subscribers and viewers, when we hit that milestone, we're going to order a Marino jersey. We're going to get Dan to sign it, and we're sending it to Judy.
That's an absolute great idea, my friend.
And Charlie Weiss is coming on the program in the next few weeks to break down these quarterbacks, just so you know.
Look forward to having him. Might have some other draft people on before April 24th. It should be a blast, brother. You know what? It's a great time of year, but my friend, enjoy the rest. Chin's on. Chin, chin.
Chin, chin.
See you
Thanks
soon.
for watching this edition of the Mangia Cast. Mangia, everybody.